Championship game. Sorry about that, Rex. Rex, Alex, Teddy, Shefty's got a ton of news. We have a million things coming your way in 15 minutes. Teddy, get us started.
Let's start with that game, fellas, in terms of what the Rams have to do to try and make this a game, because the Philadelphia Eagles are a great football team. But Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, they have what it takes to push them to the limits. What's the plan going to be? I'm going to be watching early because that script is dangerous. They can move the ball on this defense. They know it. They have the confidence. Can they just execute when it counts?
And listen, let's stay with that game. If the Rams are going to win this, it's going to be on the shoulder of Matthew Stafford. How do you stop that? This Eagles D-line has to eat. They had 5 sacks in their Week 12 matchup. They're going to have to do it today. You got to pressure him, disrupt him, throw him off. You can make this happen today. Let's see it, Eagles defensive line.
Well, Alex, you talk about pressure. Pressure on that man, Josh Allen?
Yes.
Pressure on that man, Lamar Jackson?
Yes.
How about this man, Tom Munkin?
Yes.
Put some pressure on you. Last time, my friend, when you had the best team, you guys lost because you thought you had Tom Brady. 82% of the time you had drop back passes. You have Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, maybe a 3, we'll see. Don't forget it. Run the ball with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and good things will happen.
Rex, you talk about the pressure being on. The pressure is now on the New Orleans Saints, New York Jets, Chicago Bears, Las Vegas Raiders, Jacksonville Jaguars, because Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are now available. Thanks to the unexpected loss last night, the hiring cycle has been ramped up, sped up, and it would not surprise anybody across the National Football League if most, if not all of these openings were filled later this week, because Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn were the first dominoes that had to fall. Nobody thought that they would be available to meet with teams starting tomorrow and to take jobs, but they are, and that is going to change the direction of this coaching cycle.
So to be clear, you had said you don't expect these things to start happening until closer to the Super Bowl. That has completely changed now.
Totally shifted because they're now free. I think a lot of people operated under the assumption that at the very least the Lions would be in the NFC Championship game. They're not. These men are now coaching free agents, and that's going to speed up everything right now.
We will have Lane Johnson on Countdown Camp. He will join us live in advance of today's huge matchup in Philadelphia between the Eagles and the Rams. That's just a piece of what we have coming your way at the top of the hour. We also, of course, will have an inside look at the 2 legendary quarterbacks who will go head-to-head tonight. Sal will go one-on-one with AJ. What exactly was going on as he was reading the book on the sideline? And Jeremy Schaap went to L.A. this week. He has a very special look at the relationship between the Rams and that city during this extraordinarily difficult time. All that and more. We are 12 minutes away. Sunday NFL Countdown taking you right up until kick. Hannah and Jay, back to you.
All right, Greeny, I'll take it in the studio here. Sports betting analyst Erin Dolan joining us for her EKD Top 3. The 3 things you need to know before betting today's divisional round games. Erin, what is your top trend today?
Well, how about the Bills? They're 9-0 straight up at home this season, and I expect them to win today. I'm taking them on the money line, more specifically because I don't believe in Lamar Jackson in the postseason. Come that second game, okay? He's 0-2 in the second game of the postseason with just 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions. Meanwhile, he's typically good to start the postseason, but he definitely continues to fall off. So I do expect the Buffalo Bills to come out, win this game. They have the home field advantage. And yes, I know the Baltimore Ravens are a good team, but I trust Josh Allen more in the postseason. So they get it done today. I'm taking them on the money line.
All right, how about your top play?
That's going to be Jalen Hurts' longest rush over 11.5. He's hit over this mark in 4 straight games, not to mention 10 of the 16 games played this season. This also comes down to weather and the fact that the Rams were not able to contain Saquon Barkley, who went for 255 yards. So that defense is going to be focused on Barkley today. And the Rams defense just overall hasn't been good at stopping opposing quarterbacks from running. They've been the 2nd worst team since week 14 in this category. I love this bet. It's my favorite bet of the day. Jalen Hurts' longest rush over 11.5.
Finally, who are your top touchdown scorers for today?
All right, let's start off with Josh Allen anytime touchdown. And for those that are new to betting, this has to be a rushing touchdown for the quarterback, not a passing touchdown. But I do expect him to find the end zone today. He's been successful in the postseason. Looking back to last year, I mean, he had 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 against Kansas City, 1 against Pitt. I think he finds the end zone today. He punches one in. I'm also looking at Jalen Hurts based on the weather and based on the fact that, again, I think that defense is going to be really focused on Saquon Barkley. I'm taking him anytime touchdown score as well. Then you could parlay this with the Philadelphia Eagles to win, which of course I expect to happen, as well as the Bills to win. Like I just mentioned, this was plus 600 on ESPN Bet. We got it boosted for you guys to plus 725. So let's have some fun. And as always, go Birds.
Yes, y'all get rolling with Dolan. Hurry up. Much more from Erin. Top of the hour. Countdown Thank you, Steve. Thank you, ma'am.
This is Hannah Storm in Atlanta, about 800 miles north of here. The Rams back on the road in Philly, having demolished the Vikings Monday in Glendale, Arizona, after their game was moved due to the California wildfires. Since losing to Philly back in Week 12, they have lost only once when they rested their starters in Week 18. And among those wins, if you recall, they actually beat the Buffalo Bills in a wild one. So the Rams are coming in as a very hot football team, but also a football team that has been dealing with just the unimaginable loss and tragedy caused by those wildfires in Southern California. And LA native Lindsay Theory has been reporting so well on that, just the heartbreak that the Angelinos have suffered, and it's affected everyone, the Rams, their staff, and so on. How have they been dealing on a personal level with all of this as they have such a professional responsibility in these playoffs?
Hannah, it's certainly been a challenge. This week, I sat down with right tackle Rob Havenstein, who told me the story of what happened to him the week the fires popped up. And it was an emotional one. He was out at practice. He had to sprint out when he saw smoke coming up because he knew the area was where his house was. And in fact, his dad, his wife, his 3 daughters were at their home when a fire popped up, and it was only 20 yards away from their backyard. Thanks to the firefighters, their home was saved. They all made it out safely, but that is just an emotional experience that anyone has to go through. For others on the team, they weren't directly impacted, but they know seeing this kind of devastation, it certainly takes an emotional toll.
It was wild, honestly. For the first time in my life ever, I was, in person, seeing the fires and seeing the smoke come up behind the facility. It left me kind of nervous and didn't know what to expect, didn't know how close it was going to get to me or how close it was going to get to one of my teammates.
This team is only as strong as our community. This organization is only as good as Los Angeles is. And when you can play a role in lifting this community up and being part of that fabric, it goes beyond the wins and losses. There's never been a mix of more pride and hope and excitement and energy, just combined with this horrific sadness that still you can't shake.
It certainly is something that is very hard to shake. I can tell you that as someone who lives in Los Angeles. But for the Rams, they are trying to channel that energy into winning because they know sports can be so galvanizing. And if it's only for a few hours on a Sunday, they want to give Angelinos something to look at, to be proud of, and to smile at. And Hannah, it certainly would be a proud and energizing moment for the city if the Rams pull off a win here today and to possibly host the NFC Championship back in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and that's obviously a possibility because of the Commanders' upset of the Lions. So as the Rams play for much more than just themselves. Thank you, Lindsay. Obviously, the Eagles would like to host that game, the divisional championship, and they would have the opportunity to do that should they beat the Rams as favorites today in the snow. A.J. Brown, big story this week, not for what he did on the field, but on the sideline, reading a book. I know you had a chance to speak with him about that. Sal Powell, what did he say?
Yeah, it happened in the fourth quarter of the wild card game against the Green Bay Packers. A national TV audience saw A.J. Brown reading this book, Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy. And the book has skyrocketed in sales, obviously. And I sat down with A.J. Brown to talk to him about why he reads this book and the reaction that it generated.
So I just picked the book and I was like, I'm gonna train my brain, because our brain is the most powerful. Our bodies cannot go if our brain don't tell us to go. And so if you believe, first of all, and that's where the book comes in, because, I know I'm a big, strong guy, but I have to do some dirty work in the game, and I have to do it over and over again, and stick my face in places where, that it hurts after. And it's, I done found peace in chaos, in the midst of chaos. And
whoa, I love that.
Yeah.
Peace in the midst of chaos.
In the midst of chaos, because this game is violent.
And when you listen to A.J. Brown talk about this book, and you listen to his teammates and his coaches, you can understand why they were disappointed at some of the initial negative reaction that generated from that sideline of him reading a book, Hannah. You can understand why specifically people expressed disappointment in some of the immediate negative reaction. And then when you go further and look at the history of A.J. Brown and how he has talked publicly about his struggles with mental health, you begin to get a real clear picture. And the one-on-one interview that we did with him, the entirety of it will run on Sunday NFL Countdown in a few hours. It's fascinating, a look at a player and what he has done to get his mind right. And that him reading that book on the sideline, got a lot of people to read the book, to buy the book. And he's really proud of the idea that he's been able to connect people to this book, people who needed help and guidance.
Yeah, certainly an example of the kind of reach that A.J. Brown has, and really interesting that he was actually able to meet the author, Jim Murphy, also this week as well, and they were able to visit. A Sal Pal, as always, thank you. Jay?
All right, Hannah, Damian Woody, Herm Edwards back with us. Okay, Herm, I know you didn't like it when you first saw it. After hearing A.J. talk to Sal, what are your thoughts now on the whole book on the sidelines?
Oh, I think it's important when you think about what we're talking about here, but there's a time and a place for everything. And I think when you're a football player, you're playing football. That's just me. You can say old school or not, and I just think that at some point, you got to realize, look, this is about, the football game. And, this is what you do for a living. And I'm glad that he feels this book has helped him. That's great. I'm all about all that. But I just think there's a time and place for everything.
Understood. Damian, let's talk about this Eagles offense today. What do you think their formula needs to be for success?
Do what you do.
Yeah.
It's really that simple, Jay. Do what you do. Do what you've been doing all year. That's gotten you to this point. And that's on the back of Saquon Barkley, first and foremost. We've talked about the offensive line at nauseam. Saquon Barkley. Why have we talked about those two so much? Because they're really the catalyst, the engine behind the success of the Philadelphia Eagles. And we haven't even gotten into their number one defense. Right. But when you're able to run the ball the way the Philadelphia Eagles are, it just dictates the terms of the game. Now all of a sudden, defense, from a defensive standpoint, you got to do something to counter that. Bring guys down in the box to try to stop the run. Well, guess what? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, go to work. And so it's a numbers game when we talk about the game of football. I always tell people the game of football is simple. People make it more complicated than what it really is.
It's going to be a good day to sit and watch football today.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Josh Allen has had an MVP caliber year leading the Bills back to the divisional round, while Allen is looking for a different result tonight against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các bạn. Mình lại quay lại đây. Video ngày hôm nay mình sẽ tô màu